The Verdict with World Pool.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We are going to concentrate on the Cambridgeshire meeting at Newmarket, which started on Thursday and ran for 3 days. And we have some excellent data to analyse, courtesy of Race IQ. We start on day one, on the Thursday afternoon, and here are the winners for the first day of the meeting. Maltese Cross taking the opener, Big Song, Arabian Leopard getting up late, Distant Storm, we're going to concentrate on him in a moment. Best time of the day by some way, actually, 124.15 over 7 furlongs, so only 0.85 above the Racing Post standard. Miss Appides won a listed contest, Secret Beach and Sunny Corner completed the winners on the card. Let's have a look at the Race IQ time index to put those times into some sort of context. The meeting average was 5.6 on going, described as good to firm in places. I think that's about right, really. I think they got the ground just about spot on in terms of their descriptions all week. I think that was about right for day one. More good than good to firm and Distant Storm. The best time, 6.8 out of 10. And he put up a really good performance. One of the better time performances last week and certainly one of the better ones at Newmarket. So let's have a look at this race. Let's remind you that it was the Somerville Tattersall Stakes and it was a Group 3 contest. It was over 7 furlongs. Stall 6 for Distant Storm. Commander's Intent second from 1. Archer Royal third from stall number 5. He was not particularly quickly into stride. Look at that. 6th fastest to 20 miles an hour. It took him 2.63 seconds. I think part of that was intentional from William Buick. I think he wanted to get this horse settled. I think he wanted to get him cover as well, because what happened at York in the Acomb was that off a steady pace, he was way too keen when beaten by Gaworn and Italy, and he pulled far too hard that day, and I think they were conscious that they wanted to get him settled. Catullus took them along in the early part of the race, also in the Godolphin Blue, and he went a good even gallop out in front, 11.48, 11.52, 11.38, and then another 11.38. So the pace overall was quite a strong one, but Distant Storm was not inconvenienced by being out the back because he's got a fine turn of foot. 5th furlong, he quickened up 11.36 as he switched to the outside, and then in 11.11, rated as fast against the Race IQ par, and then he rockets home 12.28. That's fast as well. Now here he is changing legs inside the final furlong. He's getting tired, leading on his near four. There, hangs in the air and changes to his off 4 and then clears away from his rivals. He is clearly a horse who's got plenty of speed given those closing sectionals that he achieved, and it gave him a finishing speed percentage 102.76. No other horse in the race got over 100%, so he's better than par with the way he finished, and that's because he's got a blinding turn of foot. He couldn't show it off a steady gallop in the Acomb where he pulled too hard, used up too much petrol. Here, everything was perfect, and he quickened away in good style. It was a genuine Group 3 field, I think, but surely he's going to be able to cut it in Group 1 company, given the speed that he showed here, settling nicely on this occasion and quickening up well. Look at that in the closing stages of this race. He was the only horse able to run fast furlongs as against par. Furlong 6, 11.11, and furlong 7, 12.28. You can see the sea of blue for all of his rivals in the closing stages. Off that pretty good gallop, they couldn't sustain their speed, but he could. And he was very good with the final couple of furlongs of 23.4. Look at the runner-up, 24.57. Way slower than Distant Storm. He's definitely a Group 1 horse. Maybe the Dewhurst beckons for him. Yeah, that's pretty impressive from Distant Storm, wasn't it? Let's move on to Friday and see what this day brought us. A really good day. It's Action Francophone winning the first. Silent I Love the second. Xanthos taking the 2:25 in good style, getting across to the stand-side rail and making just about all the running. Zeus Olympios, impressive in the 3 o'clock contest, which was the Joel Stakes. So I've looked at that in some detail. Lions Pride, Enoch and Man of La Mancha completed all of the winners on the day. Now let's have a look at the time index. Now remember, the going on the first day, on the Thursday, was good to firm, good in places. They described it as good to firm on day 2. They thought it had quickened up just a little bit, but the meeting average was lower at 4.5. We did have a couple of steadily run races. That's brought the average down a little bit. That includes the Zeus Olympios race, but I think overall we were dealing with ground that was more good than good to firm on the second day. So Zeus Olympios, a slow time overall, but an impressive visual performance from this horse who remains unbeaten for the Carl Burke team. Let's have a look at it from the stalls. He came from stall number 4, Opera Ballo from 6 and Detained from 3. And Opera Ballo, a little bit weak in the market, had put up a tremendous time performance when he'd won on the July course prior to coming here. He'd had a little bit of a break. Look at the early pace. You can tell how fast or not they are going by how keen these horses are. Firstly, Zeus Olympios, look at that. He really wants to get on with it. He's pulling quite hard, having been quite quickly away, second fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.38 seconds. And now Opera Ballo decides he's going to get keen. And when he won on the July course last time up, he had a pacemaker. He settled in behind his pacemaker, got cover and quickened up really well. He featured on the verdict that day because it was a fantastic time performance. He couldn't replicate it here. No cover, pulling too hard towards the stand side. It's not shown him in his best light. He's a much better horse than he showed here, Opera Ballo, and he'll go to Dubai and mop up some races over there, I have no doubt. Zeus Olympios, really impressive here. The first 3 furlongs were slow or very slow against the Race IQ par. That's why he was a little bit keen. That's why the overall time isn't good, because they've got 3 very steady furlongs early on. But he quickens up in tremendous style. The 6th furlong, 11.26. That's rated as fast. That's taking him from 4th place just about to the front. And now the only horse in the race to dip under 11 seconds. In furlong 7, 10.95. Very fast against the Race IQ par. And he's very fast in the final furlong against par with a 12.05. He's got a sharp turn of foot, this horse. He's got loads of speed. And he's seen off the strong travelling Opera Ballo, who used up too much energy early on and couldn't quicken like we saw him do on the July course when we last saw him. But nonetheless, Zeus Olympios is clearly a really good horse. Look how he moves, those big white socks. He does not bend his knee at all. It looks to me like he's always going to want fast ground. And his maximum stride length here was just over 8 metres, 8.05 metres. He's got a big, long, raking stride. I think he's always going to want decent ground to utilise that. He's got a very low cadence as well, so he doesn't spin his wheels that quickly. But he is able to quicken up. He is unbeaten in his career, and there's not much for him now going forward, so you'd imagine they might put him away and come back next season over a mile in Group 1 contest. Decent ground midsummer where he can utilise his speed. That really looks as if it's going to be right up his street. Here's the data for this race. Look, the point about this race is it's a slowly run affair. That's why he's got a very low time index of 3.3. And slowly run because of those first 3 furlongs. They crawled along, flight plan taking them through in 15.36, 12.46, 12.08. Then they gradually wound it up for a sprint finish, and he was way quicker than his rivals. Look at that, 10.95. That's an impressive turn of speed in that penultimate furlong from Zeus Olympios, who's taken this Group 2 and proved, I think, that he's a Group 1 horse in waiting. We have 4 races to look at from Saturday afternoon at Newmarket. The Cambridgeshire featuring as one of them, but there was some very good 2-year-old action. Here are all the winners from that card. Bo Echo taking the Royal Lodge, True Love, the Cheveley Park. We've got Wise Approach to have a look at in the Middle Park. Boiling Point winning the Cambridgeshire. Quiescent, Mubassimar, who made every yard of the running. Golden Orbit and El Arak, enterprisingly ridden by Tom Marcan to go across to the far side where Boiling Point won the Cambridgeshire. Boiling Point and El Arak making every yard of the running. Let's have a look at the time index. Good to firm officially the ground. I think it was a little bit quicker than it was on the second day. So I think we were quite quick ground, round about good to firm on the first day. More like good ground the second day, and now back to good to firm And this day, the sixth race was very steadily run, so it brings the meeting average down to 4.2. We look at the first 4 races, and the 5.9 in the Cambridgeshire, the best time on the card from Boiling Point. We're going to start with the Royal Lodge then, the first race on the card. It's Group 2, of course, it's over 1 mile. And Bo Echo was the winner from stall 8, beat Humidity from 5 and Action from stall number 6. Action's a horse to very much keep an eye on the latter stages of this race. I think he's going to be quite a nice horse. He's really big, long striding individual. There'll be more to come from him. Now, Bo Echo was quite slowly away, 4th fastest to 20 miles an hour, and got a bit keen, as we highlighted there. Just a little bit keen as they were taken along by Humidity in the early stages. And the pace was not furious at all. This is quite similar to the Zeus Olympios race. They went slightly quicker in this contest, but it was not a furiously run affair. Look where Action is. The horse who finishes 3rd, he's last at this stage. He gets lost in the dip and comes home strongly. So he's a horse to bear in mind. And Bo Echo travels really well, as he did when he won a listed race at Haydock last time, where he beat Publish. Perhaps a bit lucky to beat Publish, who surged to the front from the back of the field before getting tired and paying for that big mid-race move. But nonetheless, Bo Echo unbeaten coming in here, and he's a horse who's got a real good turn of foot. And he needed it because they've gone steady. Humidity's got his own way out in front with 11.8, 11.78, 11.77 for his 2nd, 3rd and 4th furlong. But now Bo Echo looms up with 3 to go and quickens well. A fast furlong of 11.52. It's fast against the Race IQ par. And then he comes home in 11.22 and a 12.42. All those 3 furlongs were fast against Race IQ par to give him an FSP of 102.54 above the par. Look at Action. Big horse with his head in the air. He got lost in the dip. He had to come from the back, but he's run on pretty well in the closing stages. And his final 2 furlongs were quicker than those 2 that finished in front of him. So despite looking awkward, Action with his big white face and having plenty to do from the back of the field and getting lost in the dip, he's run home stronger than the 2 that finished in front of him. And he didn't have much running room either, so he's a horse to bear in mind going forward. He had a finishing speed percentage just slightly bigger than the winner, 102.85, the winner 102.54. So I'd certainly put Action down as a horse that you want to keep an eye on going forward. But the George Bowie team have always been very bullish about this fella coming back into the winners' enclosure, Bo Echo. I think they'll put him away now. That was the vibe he gave when speaking to Nick Luck after the race. I think they'll put him away for the 2,000 guineas and he'll go there unbeaten. He doesn't think he'll need a prep either. He thinks he can go straight to the 2,000 guineas. He certainly is a horse with a fine turn of foot, and he needed it in what was a steadily run Royal Lodge. And we can prove that by having a look at the data. There we go. Look at the blue early on, where they've gone slower than par, taken along by Humidity. James Doyle dictating a really nice gallop for himself, really. And no surprise that Humidity stayed to the fore throughout the race off those tepid early fractions. It then turned into a sprint. Plenty of horses sprinting through those final 3 furlongs. But look at Action. He did 4 fast furlongs against par on the bounce. And he comes out of this with plenty of positive data, given he really didn't handle the track and he was poorly placed in a steadily run race. But Bo Echo, one to bear in mind for the 2,000 guineas. Time now to turn our attention to the Group 1 Cheveley Park Stakes, a race that was run in a real contrast to the Royal Lodge in that it was quite strongly run. It was won by True Love for the Aidan O'Brien team. True Love coming from stall number 8, Havana Anna was 2nd from 5, and Royal Fixation was 3rd from stall 9. America Queen for that 4th spot for Richard Hughes from stall number 4. Now, when we looked at the Zeus Olympios race and we looked at the Bo Echo race, they were quite steadily run in the early part of the contest. This was not that case. They went pretty hard here. I think you can tell that visually. They were really rolling along in the early part of the race. Break speed for the winner, 3rd fastest, 2.31 seconds to 20 miles an hour. And she sits pretty handy in the early part of the race. She's not too far off the pace set by Fitzella. You can tell from these fractions, I know we're going 6 furlongs, that it was quite a strongly run race. 11.02 the 2nd furlong, 11.09 the 3rd. They just steadied it in the 4th furlong, 11.53, and then they kicked again. So there wasn't much let up in this race. They went pretty hard. They ran really evenly. You can see her finishing speed percentage, True Love, 101.78. The par's 101.47, so she's bang on par, really. There she is quickening up with an 11.09 par furlong through the 5th furlong. That's got her to the front, and she runs a 12.16 final furlong, staying on pretty strongly through the line over this 6 furlongs. Royal Fixation's running on quite well in the closing stages. She was fastest in the race through the final furlong with a 12.14, but she'd been under pressure quite a way out. You'd think another furlong would suit Royal Fixation. True Love, who were disappointed last time up in the Phoenix, where she'd reported to be mildly lame. She'd won the Queen Mary at Royal Ascot, and she's back to her best here in quite a strongly run race, and she's kept on well in the closing stages to run par, really, just even fractions throughout the race. She hasn't quickened up fiercely like Zeus Olympios or Bo Echo did. She's just kept rolling under Wayne Lorden. It'll be interesting to see where they go with her. Lake Victoria won this last year, and she went off to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf over a mile, and that was fine for her. Whether it would be for True Love or not, I don't know. She's bred to be a sprinter, really. I'm not sure that a mile would suit her, but maybe on fast ground with a turn in America, they'll give it a go with her. She's clearly very talented, and she handled the rigours of that race, no problem whatsoever. Here's the data from it. You can see with all the par numbers on there that she's just run evenly, really, and very similar fractions for all of her furlongs, bar the last. Second furlong 11, third furlong 11.09, then the 11.38 when the pace steadied a little bit, then 11.09 again, and 12.16. So she's just kept going evenly throughout the race for a 23.25 final, a couple of furlongs. 23.33 Havana Anna. And let me point in the direction of Royal Fixation's 23.29, which was better than the runner-up Havana Anna, and was really going on at the death, and she wants a little bit further. But to True Love, she might be bound for the Breeders' Cup. Watch this space. Let's turn our attentions to a dramatic Tattersalls Middle Park Stakes. Colts involved here over 6 furlongs. At the start of the race was the most interesting part of it, and Wise Approach, who wins the race from stall 8, gets badly hampered. Brussels from 6 was second, Koppel was third from stall number 5. Now, next to Wise Approach was the Publican's Son, who came from stall 7. Gives Wise Approach a big bash there, and Wise Approach stumbles and loses momentum, and therefore is 8th fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.77 seconds. Publican's Son was quite slow to 20 miles an hour as well. This left Wise Approach with plenty to do at the back of the field in what was a strongly run race, similarly run to the Cheveley Park, actually, and a different sort of performance from Wise Approach to True Love. True Love was always prominent and just kept going. Wise Approach from that start and what happened to him out the back, and had to show a tremendous amount of speed in the closing stages to win this, and he quickens up off a strong gallop in fine style. I think he's a really fast horse, this Wise Approach. Look at his final 2 furlongs, 22.7, comprised of a penultimate of 10.92, fast against the Race IQ par. That's propelling him from 9th into 3rd place from the back of the field, and he backs it up with a very fast furlong of 11.78, which takes him to the front. He does hang to his left in the closing stages, but he wins going away from Brussels and Koppel and 5 Ways, who made the running. Here's the start again, the important part. Publican's Son, bash, straight into him, and then he stumbles thereafter. It's not his fault, and William Buick has to take his medicine then and sit last and sit out the back. He got a pretty good pace to go at. The time index here was 4.4, better than the meeting average of 4.2. But I like the fact that he's overcome that disadvantage. He's had to circle the field, go round them to get a run, sensibly so really, because he might not have got through the traffic. And he's had to quicken up, and he's done so by firing a really quick couple of furlongs to conclude the race. He is really fast, this fella, not bred at all to go a mile. So you would have thought the connections will rule out the 2,000 guineas and think about the Commonwealth Cup. Here's that move from William Buick. He's thinking of going between horses. He's not going to risk it. He's going to get out, get some clear sailing. He's got 5 Ways in front of him. He can chase that horse and run him down comfortably with that 10.92 and 11.78. And that gave him a finishing speed percentage of 105.09, with the par being 101.47. So he really has flashed home, showing tons of speed. As soon as William puts his stick down, the ears are pricked, and he might have won with a little bit in hand. A little bit disconcerting that he went so far to his left under pressure. But he's a fast horse with loads of talent. He's produced a pretty good speed figure there in coming from last to first. Not easy to do at Newmarket. Track, the Rolling Mile, that really does suit front runners or horses that are ridden prominently, as True Love was in the Cheveley Park. So he's overcome a lot of adversity to land that. This shows you what he ran. He was 9th and last after a furlong, and he was still 9th after the 2nd and 3rd and 4th furlongs, where he's run quite evenly, and then suddenly that 10.92 has propelled him from 9th into 3rd spot, and 11.78, way quicker than his rivals, has got him to the front despite hanging left, and he's won quite well. Just to mention, for the 3rd Koppel, he ran quite a fast final furlong of 11.9, but nowhere near as quick through the last 2 furlongs as a very useful winner. Wise approach, one to bear in mind for the Commonwealth Cup next year. OK, the big race of the day at Newmarket on Saturday was the Cambridgeshire, always a fiercely competitive handicap, won by Carl Burt last year with Liberty Lane, who just about made all of the running over on the far side of the track. And guess what happened this time? Carl Burt wins it again with a horse making just about all the running on the far side of the track. Boiling Point came from stall number 6 and beaten Indalo from 3, Fort George from 10, Erzincan from 23. It does way better than all of those drawn high. Erzincan, it's a really big run from him. He finishes clear of those that race towards the stand side. Look at Boiling Point, break speed, 2nd fastest in the race, 2.37 seconds to 20 miles an hour, and he is leading the far side group. Now, this is a race about him going pretty hard out in front and then hanging on. He establishes an advantage and they can't reel him in, hard as Indalo tried, who flew home in the closing stages, which was really gutting for Roger Varian. Roger used to train Boiling Point. Now with Carl Burke, he does train Indalo. Indalo trying to run Boiling Point down, but he couldn't quite get there, just denied. The stand side group were about level at this stage. There wasn't too much in it. The favourite on the stand side making the running, and there wasn't much between them this stage, but Boiling Point picks up and kicks through even fractions, 11.67 4th furlong, 11.73 a 5th furlong, and 11.67 6th furlong. And he's got a length or 2 on his rivals in behind. They're now pulling a length or 2 clear of the stand side as well. There's that 7th furlong of 11.64. So he's gone quite early, Clifford Lee. He's gone through the 5th and 6th furlong, and then he's on fumes late on, and he's hanging on. Get this, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th all ran faster final furlongs than Boiling Point. He's getting very tired late on, but he's able to cling on in the closing stages. Here comes Indalo thrusting. Fort George, who's a thoroughly progressive individual for Ed Walker. And then this side, mark him up massively. Erzincan finishing off really strongly, doing best of those towards the stand side. There might be a big handicap in him. I wonder if he's in the Balmoral handicap at Ascot on the Kipco Champions Day. He'd be a horse to bear in mind for that if they decide to send him there. But Boiling Point, who was the class act here, top weight, giving way to absolutely everything. He can cut it in pattern races, and despite getting very tired and drifting badly to his left in the closing stages, he is able to hang on for the Carl Burke team. Who've had a tremendous season. And Clifford Lee, basically, he's put them to the sword there. He's gone really hard out in front. He's nicked a couple of lengths quite a long way from home, and then he really is clinging on while he's on fumes. In the closing stages, let's sum up what we saw then in the Cambridgeshire. I've just picked out some of the main protagonists. Obviously, there were a lot of runners. And you can see there his finishing speed percentage, 101.5% through the final 3 furlongs. But look at all of those that I've put in there. Indalo, Fort George, Erzincan, Dutch Decoy, all ran faster FSPs than him. All came home stronger than him. And their fastest furlongs were faster than him as well. But Boiling Point, enterprisingly ridden by Clifford Lee, nicked an advantage and clung on by a nose. Time now on the verdict for the Whirlpool Race of the Week, which was on Sunday afternoon in Germany at Cologne. And it was the Preis von Europa, a Group 1 over 1.5 miles. We'll pick them up around about halfway here. It's won by Sibian, who sat second last at this stage, who beats Tiffany by 2.5 lengths, and Columbus, who made the running, finished back in third place. This is a thoroughly progressive son of Blame. He's a gelding. And he's 4 from 6 since joining Francis Graffard, and he went readily clear to land this in tremendous style. The filly he beats is Tiffany, who was returning from an 11-month layoff for Sir Mark Prescott. She ran really well in the Kipco Fillies and Mares last year to be third at Ascot in October, and presumably she will be heading back there after this. Sibian has got a big round action, clearly handles cut in the ground, and he stays very well indeed. He's relentless up the home straight here under Michael Barcelona to run down Tiffany, who looks booked for third or fourth in the home straight, but rallies to good effect to get up for second under Luke Morris. But look at this horse, Sibian, beginning to roll towards the outside of the field. Got a big, long, raking stride. He hits the ground hard, but he's relentless the way he gallops out. And with that in mind, it is of great interest that he's in the Long Distance Cup on British Champions Day at Ascot. That will be a step up in trip for him to 2 miles. But for all the world, he looks like he will stay that far. This is his first Group 1 success. He's got Group 2s on his dance card prior to this, but he would be of great interest if he were to go to Ascot for that Long Distance Cup. Remember the name, Sibian. He's a stayer to keep an eye on. Well, that's it for this week's edition of The Verdict. I do think that race of the week that we just had a look at is a race worth following. Sibian looks like a tremendous stayer in the making. When he steps up in trip, he could be of great interest against the best around. We saw some very good action at Newmarket this week. I think the best came from Distant Storm in the Godolphin colours, who quickened up really well to land what was a pretty competitive 2-year-old contest. I think there's going to be a load more to come from him. I think he's a 2,000 guineas horse in the making, and a likewise approach as well, because it all went wrong for him in the early stages of the middle part, but he quickened up very well too in the latter part of that race to win the going away Commonwealth Cup possibly next year for him. So we've seen some really good performances at Newmarket this week on decent flat racing ground, some good times as well, which produced some very interesting data. Hope you enjoyed looking back at those races, and I'll see you next week.
The Verdict with World Pool.